All right, welcome back to the Washington State Real Estate Investing Podcast. I'm excited today to be joined by Jeff from Builders Capital. Maybe we'll get into this in the podcast itself, but full disclosure, my wife and I are filling out paperwork to get a loan product from Builders Capital. When I reached out to Jeff, I had no clue that we would be talking about Builders Capital in today's episode, but it just fits quite nicely. So, Jeff, welcome to the podcast. Tell listeners a little bit about yourself, your background in real estate.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, Jeff Bumgardner. I guess I got started in real estate after grad school, studied city planning, did apartment development on the East Coast, primarily combination of ground up, value add. Moved to Seattle maybe 10 years ago, worked for a tech company called City Builder, building really cool software that helps us identify essentially like development opportunities. I think of it as land acquisition software, but it has a lot of uses outside of that. And then spent some time working for a wholesaler, did some flips myself in Seattle, which was fun. And I was a borrower with Builders Capital twice when I was in Seattle. So I knew these guys, and a buddy of mine was at Broadmark maybe last year, and we checked in. And last time we spoke, or I guess last time in a while that we spoke, he had moved over to Builders Capital. And so we spent a little while talking about that. And I said, this seems like a cool opportunity. I'm in Idaho, so finding anything like half relevant to real estate out here is tough. And so I joined up with them, and it's been great. There's a huge need for the products that we offer, and the guys are all like top notch. I really enjoy working there. So excited to be here and talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, that's great. Talk a little bit about what are the flips you did here in Seattle? Was it in the greater Seattle area or somewhere?
Yeah, they were both in Leschi. I lived in Leschi. And so, the flips were like, can I walk to it? Is it close to Home Depot? And, met all the criteria. So one was like a historic Victorian in Leschi. And another one was like a small craftsman in Leschi.
Very cool.
And they were great. I mean, every project you learn on them. And, I remember the first one I did with Builders Capital, I'm like walking through the house after I bought it, and my wife's there, right? And she's like, the floors aren't level. And I was like, yeah, it's an old house. Like, who cares, right? And she's like, you can't sell a house with the floor. Like, I can roll a marble down the floor. And so anyway, I had to demo the entire chimney and jack the house up, and it ended up being like quite a bit of pain and suffering, but it was fun. Yeah,
that's great.
We had a good time.
That's great. That's awesome. Yeah. That's one of our new things now too, is how far is it? Like when we started in our real estate journey, we never thought about how far were you from a hardware store or a Home Depot. And now we're the same thing. Like if it's less than 30 minutes from a Home Depot, then that's a project we'll consider. Cause I tell you, run into the store all the time will eat into your time for sure. Well, talk to us a little bit about Builders Capital and the approach that is used for loans specifically to real estate investors.
Yeah, so Builders Capital has been around for, almost 2 decades. Started in Seattle. We used to have an office in like Georgetown area by the Rainier Brewery. Now the office is in Puyallup. 3 founders, Kurt Altig, Robert Hadley, Rob Trent. Rob Trent was a home builder, sold to one of the big 4, as I understand it. Kurt Altig is like an investment guy, Wall Street type guy, and Robert Hadley is like 4th or 5th generation real estate guy. So all like super knowledgeable, very proficient at what they do. And we exist primarily to provide construction financing for ground up new construction. obviously we did value add and still do some value add, but primarily we're working with home builders, developers, to get these residential construction projects off the ground and stabilized. We are the largest private residential construction lender in the country, so we're pretty good at what we do.
Yeah.
We've got access to a lot of capital. We did $3 billion in originations last year. We'll do 4.5 this year.
Wow.
So yeah, just uniquely positioned, I'd say, to provide that just, from post entitlement through construction and stabilization capital. And we do it at 85% loan to cost right now. So we're taking most of the capital stack. A lot of borrowers come to us and they're like, I've been raising money for 6 months, and we're like, you can stop now because
Yeah.
instead of raising money, which is expensive and forces you to give up some ownership of the project, you're going to use builder's capital, and we're going to take over that equity piece in a lot of cases and fund these deals. We have the flexibility that banks don't have, in that we're typically not super focused on restricting starts or the draw process. It's very easy compared to a traditional lender. You submit the draw application. We send somebody out, or we don't send someone out, depending on how big the request is. We approve it within 4 days, and we fund within 4 days. And so it's just really fast compared to, most developers who are submitting pay apps to a bank and, 30 days later funding those. So
Yeah. Yeah. And
yeah,
there's
there's
really,
some
I mean, you
flexibility.
guys fund all sizes of projects, right? Everything from single
Yeah.
family all the way up to huge apartment complexes.
Yeah, we'll do everything. I would say the smallest loan size it's actually 500,000. I tell people it's $1 million because it's the same amount of work to do a
Yeah.
$500,000, house as it is to do a $50 million condo building. But yeah, we'll do pretty much everything residential. We'll do mixed use, but we can't provide value on the exit for the commercial or non-residential portion. So it's got to be less than 20% of the gross floor area. And there's some other things that we got to pay attention to.
Mhm.
But for the most part, yeah, we're seeing subdivisions, big home builders that want to scale their business and are feeling like they've got all their equity tied up in the dirt, or in their land bank, or in their active projects. We'll come in and recapitalize them out of that. So if you own a piece of dirt, we'll give you the value. As long as you've owned it for 12 months, we'll give you the full value of what it's worth today. So a lot of these guys buy a piece of dirt, rezone it or entitle it, subdivide it, and now they've got it's worth 20 times what they paid for it.
Yeah.
A lender might say, no, we'll give you the value that you paid for the dirt. And we'll
Mm.
say, no, we're going to give you the equity value for every one of those lots, which is huge. That's
Yeah.
oftentimes your 15% of the, loan to cost that you need to bring to the table. So a lot of these guys are closing, with no cash, and we're just funding the whole deal, which
Wow.
is cool.
Which is
Yeah.
very cool. And I mean, a big part of this is because of the founders of the company were construction, right? Or in the
Yeah.
construction business, and trying and just realizing that there's this gap a lot of times between actually getting something built and getting a stabilized loan on it. Can you kind of talk about that? I mean, I think it's a really unique position. I know when we were reaching out to private money for our latest project, and we came across Builder Capital, it really was exactly what we were looking for. Look, we just need a loan that can get us to the end, and get this thing built. And working with banks, it's just so difficult, especially if you're already in your real estate investing journey, like we are. And I've got 10 loans out in my name, and my wife has income, but you have to jump through the hoops, and they don't understand the schedulees. And it's just I'm just somebody give us the money so we can build the stupid thing. And that's
Yeah.
what I really liked about kind of your approach.
Yeah, we're so we're an asset-based lender, right? And some people say hard money, some people say private, some people say asset-based, whatever it is. We don't care necessarily how much money you make, which is like the complete opposite of your traditional lender. I can remember when I was doing this in Seattle, like, I have a house that's worth $2 million and I have a bunch of real estate, but like I'm working for a startup,
Yeah.
and the banks are like, yeah, sorry, like, I don't care if you have $100 million in the bank, like we can't do the deal because you work for a startup.
Right.
And so Builders Capital is great because they're like, okay, like we understand what the land's worth. We understand what this other collateral is worth. And, we see that you have liquidity that supports, this risk profile. So we're going to do the deal. And that's why, that's why I ended up being a customer all those years ago, because it worked for me where traditional, income-based, banking didn't really fit.
Hey folks, I want to introduce you to Inspectify, our partner that is transforming the way properties are inspected. Whether it's new construction, acquisitions, sales, unit turns, or renovations, Inspectify can capture your inspection data swiftly and efficiently. Customizable inspection scopes, cutting-edge tech, and an API integration promise high-fidelity property data with every report. They also have unique insight into permits and appliances, protecting your investment from potential pitfalls. Ready at a moment's notice, Inspectify ensures excellence with proprietary tech, top-notch customer service, and coast-to-coast coverage. Want to learn more about what Inspectify can do for you? Listen to episode 30 of the podcast, where I interview CEO Josh Jensen. Don't wait. Visit inspectify.com now and enter the future of property inspection with Inspectify. As a loan officer for Builders Capital, what are some of the unique challenges that you've ran into or opportunities that you think right now, kind of given where the market is, that you see for an investor that there's some spots out there that they should be considering?
My background's city planning, so I'm always paying attention to zoning changes. And when I was working at City Builder, we, I guess, seized on some of the shoreline up zones, around 145th, and were able to like provide a lot of value for some of those homeowners by just saying, look, like your property's worth more to a builder or developer than it is to some home buyer that's going to come along. So let's just get you and the other neighbors here together and, package this up so that a multifamily builder can make you an offer that exceeds what you're going to find just for the house. The dirt's worth more than the house. I think, if I had more free time than I have right now, given how busy we are, I would probably be out there trying to tie up dirt, in the UGA that is either part of a rezone in the comp plan, like 30 years out, or maybe it's already been rezoned, but it's just underutilized. And I would just get that entitled. And you see, like Lake Union Partners started doing that. That's how they got their start. They were just like entitling dirt, and then they got into the development, and now they're like really high quality, like numerous markets. That's a great way to get started if you can put together just the entitlements, and it doesn't cost a lot of money. Some of these homeowners are willing to ride it out for a year or two while you go through that. Yeah, there's a lot of sweat equity there, going to council meetings and getting that all approved. But you're going to see such a tremendous lift doing that, that I think it makes sense. You can option off a piece of dirt for next to nothing. In some cases, if the property owner trusts you or whatever, it's like, being used as parking or ag or whatever it is.
Sure. Yeah. And I think, with the recent bills passed here in the state of Washington, where basically every residential property is now zoned up to 4 units. If you're, what is it? I think it's over 75,000, population of over 75,000. I'll just read an article that Vancouver, Washington is having to change their laws to allow these new state laws to take impact. And you just think about what does that do to lots? And, if you can seize on a big enough lot that you could fit a duplex or like almost every residential lot now can be up to 4 units with very little red tape involved.
Yep.
I just think it's an interesting approach to be thinking about, okay, where are those zonings? Where is that happening? And how can you maybe seize on those opportunities right now?
Yeah, and I think maybe for like guys that are getting started who are listening to this, like the architects are a great resource. Like it takes them 5 minutes. They know exactly what the setbacks are and, how to maximize the thing. And I wouldn't hesitate to call. I think a buddy of mine, Hugh, I forget what his name is, maybe Hugh Schaffner or something. I remember he was doing this like years ago, and he just had like a machine where you just brought
Yeah.
on site and you were like, "Hey, I can buy this," and he's like, "Yeah, you should buy that. Here's what we can do with it. Here's how much it costs. Here's what it's worth at the end." Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of stuff that I think, if you don't want to take a big risk, that's like super risk adjusted. You know exactly what you can do with it. It's not like some of these bigger development projects where you got to go like, kiss the ring and
Yeah.
yes, please, can I just build like something that's not going to cost,
Yeah.
$1,000 a foot.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's where we are with this project that we're doing in Spokane. Is part of buying this project was right after, when all these new laws were coming through, and we knew there was enough land there to build a duplex behind the original duplex that's in the front.
Yeah.
And so rather than having these, they were just like an old Model T garage. I call them Model T garages, the thing from the 1920s back there.
Yeah.
Um, and we demoed it, and there's plenty of space back there now to build another duplex. So we bought a duplex, and we're going to turn it into it'll be five units by the time we're done. And the city that's what the city wants us to do. And so the city
Yeah.
is literally helping and supporting us any way they can to get these projects done, because housing is still a need in Spokane, specifically in the area that we bought. And so it's been really interesting to be working with the city. They're saying, basically, we just had a meeting last week with them. They're like, thank you. Thank you for doing this, because this is exactly what we want to be happening in these spaces, that these lots are big enough that they can fit these homes,
Yeah.
and how do we re-leverage this land in a way that is more useful, especially within city centers? I think it's pretty unique. So,
Yeah, I think Spokane is a great example of that. It's like the small lot ordinance or whatever they just passed. Like
yeah,
that product, that townhouse product, it didn't exist 6 months ago in Spokane,
yeah,
right? And now you go through like the land use permitting records, and there are like a dozen developers that are doing exactly what you're doing. Like they paid attention to that. They maybe buy a house that's on, a half an acre, and now you've got 5 lots, and you can
yeah,
subdivide that up, and you can do 5 townhomes.
yeah,
And it's kind of risk adjusted because, worst case is you just bought it for what the house is worth. So
yeah,
if you had to, for whatever reason, I guess maybe miscalculated and you can only divide up it into 4 lots. Like you still got the house plus three. It's like free equity, free land
yeah,
basis.
yeah,
So yeah, I love that. I would definitely go, full steam ahead with that.
yeah.
Um,
Good.
and we underwrote a deal in Spokane, and I like that. I think the market's great. It's you know, whatever. It's just I think it's got a lot going for it.
Yeah,
So
I think there's a lot happening in Spokane right now. We're very excited to still be investing over there. So that's our thing. If an investor is listening to this and they're thinking, okay, I have a project coming up. I'm looking for some money to help me support me in this project. What's the best way forward? Is it best for an investor to buy the dirt, then reach out to Builders Capital? Does Builders Capital support the buying of the dirt and the building? What's the timing of things that you recommend to investors?
I would say the thing that matters the most to Builders Capital is that they have a permit to do the site work,
Okay.
or they can get the permit fairly quickly. We do not want to be in the business of like entitlement and subdivision work.
Okay.
We do fund site work, horizontal, whatever you call it, development. There's
Mhm.
like a million different things. Coming from development is funny. I call development like hard and soft costs, right? But at Builders Capital on the lender side, we call development the site work. And
Yeah.
so you'll see those different terms tossed around quite a bit. But, we'll fund it only as a way to essentially have access to funding the vertical construction as well.
Okay.
We will fund the purchase. We can also fund the refi, so we can refi them out for the purchase price if they buy it or tie it up and then they want to entitle it and then they want us to come in and take them out of it or close on it. Let's say they put down, 20% and we'll come in and we'll bring in the other 80%. They can leave the 20% in. At the end of the day, like, there's complete flexibility on our end to be able to structure deals that work for these investors. Obviously nobody's going to fund 100% of the project, sure, right? So they're either going to bring in the dirt and that'll be their equity, or they're going to bring in equity and, we take down the dirt. But yeah, we can do the purchase, we can do the site work, all the curb and gutter, infrastructure, and then we'll fund the construction.
Awesome. Can you talk a little bit about what the rates are? I mean, we're recording this on March 25th for people because I know rates are constantly on the flux. Or what do terms look like from Builders Capital side?
Yeah, I say they're fairly competitive. Obviously, not meant to compete directly with lenders, but also higher leverage, so like more loan proceeds. I think for our 12-month term, like standard loan, we're looking at 11.24 roughly. Okay. And you're going to pay points up front, like 2 to 3 points, but it'll be rolled into the loan. Actually, okay, that's one of the interesting things about this product is, there's a bunch of like title and, loan closing fees and, whatever at flood certs and all that nonsense. That stuff all gets funded as part of the loan. So at the end of the day, like, if there's enough equity in the dirt, or, you guys are coming to the table with a substantial asset, we'll fund the rest, including the interest carry. So all our loans are structured with a self-funding interest reserve for the life of the loan. And that'll be drawn on as those loan proceeds are distributed. And these borrowers are generally are not coming out of pocket for anything once we've done the loan. So if you need to come in with another, 10 million or, $100,000 or whatever, depending on the size of the loan, once you've made that contribution initially, everything else, like we like to say, that the project is fully funded, when we come on as the lender.
Yeah.
We do need to be in first position, something to think about. So if you do have another lender, who maybe did the loan just to close on the property, we'll take them out, and that'll be part of the refi up front. So we work with a lot of other lenders. Sometimes they stay in as subordinated debt. Sometimes we take them out if they need to be in first position. So,
yeah. Well, and that makes sense. If you're leveraging up to 85%, if you can take that out, you're going to want to be in first position. I totally understand that part.
Yeah, that's our recourse. Like, in the handful of cases where a project does go sideways, like, that's what we're left with at the end of the day. It's right. Okay, we take this project back.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great.
Don't do that. Anybody's listening.
Do that. Yeah, don't do that. No.
Yeah.
It's always good, having your project, having your bells and whistles. And, as somebody, as I started at the beginning, full disclosure, my wife and I are filling out paperwork right now to see if we can put together a deal with Builders Capital. And I will say it's been very easy, having a couple meetings with Builder Capital and just filling out some paperwork and getting the ball rolling. It's just nice to know there are products like this to support investors who are trying to grow their portfolio. And especially today, just knowing, the banks are very tight, especially when it comes to investment properties. That's what we're finding anyway. Trying to do something else that around and get projects done. So it's a great little loan project. And I think it's just great that people know about it. It's a local project, like you said, here out of Puyallup, Washington. So it's also great to be local as well. So that's great as well. If somebody's listening to this and they want to reach out to find out more or contact you, what's the best way for them to be able to do that?
They can go on our website and they can fill out a pricing request. You can feel free to email me. My last name's Bumgardner, so good luck getting in touch with me. If you can spell that, then I guess you win. Or they can just reach out to you, Jeff, and you can pass
Okay.
along my contact info. Everybody at the company is like super knowledgeable, well educated about the space, about the loan products. So, whoever you end up getting on the phone, they'll be able to take care of you and, get you with the thing that makes the most sense for your project. If it's like got no site work involved, then it's a new construction loan. If it's got site work involved, it's an all-in-one. There's some bridge products that come around from time to time, but for the most part, like 90% of our borrowers are just like, I either need to do the site work or I already did all the site work out of pocket and, maybe with a different lender or maybe personally, and I just need you guys to come in and fund the rest.
Build.
Yeah, so I would say just builderscapital.com, Jeff Bumgardner, find me on LinkedIn or wherever TikTok or whatever you guys are doing these days.
We'll make sure there's a link to your LinkedIn profile and to the website, of course, at builderscapital.com. We'll make sure that's in the show notes for anybody that wants to reach out. Again, I think it's just a great loan product in a great space, and that it's ran by and started by a contractor and investment people that just understand that investors need this product. I mean, this is the kind of product that we need to be able to get to a place where you can get a loan out on something and get something built quickly without having to jump through a bunch of hoops. So I think it's just a great product. I wanted to make sure listeners were aware of it if they weren't. So thank you for joining us.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Appreciate you having me on. Thanks, Jeff.
Yep.